Coming up next, Sitting at 30 takes you downtown for the weekly luncheon meeting of the City Club of Portland. Live weekly coverage of City Club is made possible in part by TCI and is produced through the facilities of Portland Cable Access. Now we join the City Club for this week's program.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Please be seated as quickly as you can. I'm Frances Storrs, President of the City Club, and I want to welcome you to another outstanding program and welcome especially our brand new live radio audience on KKGT 1150 AM radio. I am happy to report that beginning with today's program, City Club will now be live each week on this station, and we are absolutely delighted to have the immediacy of the live radio broadcast available to listeners once again. Today we focus on new vistas for Portland State University with University President Dr. Daniel Bernstine. Dr. Bernstine is also a new City Club member, and he is attending his first meeting today. We also have two other new members in the audience. One is Dr. Edward Glick, Professor Emeritus of Political Science at Temple University. Dr. Glick, if you will stand. And Alvin Rackner, Retired Director of Jewish Family and Child Services. Alvin Rackner. Next Friday, April 3rd, please join us for a timely program on the subject of global warming with a renowned expert on the subject, Dr. Jane Lubchenco, Wayne and Gladys Valley Professor of Marine Biology at Oregon State University. And we will be here again at the Multnomah Club. Our board host today is Arnold Kogan, member of the Board of Governors and managing partner of Kogan, Owens & Kogan. He will ask the first question of our speaker. Following Arnold's question, longtime City Club member Lee Stevenson will ask the first question from the floor. Lee chaired the club's study entitled The Role of Portland State University, which was published in 1978. So it is fitting that he ask the first question of Dr. Bernstine. Following Lee's question, as is our custom, we will open questions to City Club members in the audience. And if you will approach the microphone, ask your question in 30 seconds, let us know your name and that you are a City Club member. We'd like to be able to ask Dr. Bernstine as many questions as possible. Broadcast of City Club programs this quarter is made possible in part because of corporate underwriting from Fred Meyer, Washington Mutual Saving Bank, and Stowell Reeves, and we are indeed grateful for their support. City Club of Portland is greatly honored to welcome Dr. Daniel Bernstine to our podium today. Dan Bernstine became president of Portland State University on August 1st, 1997. President Bernstine grew up in San Francisco in a neighborhood where few parents had attended college, but all the parents had an interest in the entire village. His father was a custodian in a lawyer's office, and while working with him, Dan included law in the dreams his parents and neighbors encouraged him to develop. He graduated from UC Berkeley in 1969 with a BA and from Northwestern University School of Law with a JD in 1972, and then a master's in law degree in 75 from the University of Wisconsin Law School. President Bernstine worked briefly at the U.S. Department of Labor as a staff attorney, but the bulk of his career has been in an academic setting. He rose from a position as a teaching fellow at the University of Wisconsin Law School to the deanship of that law school, a position he held from 1990 until 1997 when he came to Portland. Along the way, he also served as a faculty member, general counsel, and interim dean at Howard University Law School. He has been a national and international visiting professor and has served his profession on numerous committees and has written the requisite number of articles and books. The entry on his CV I especially appreciated was his consultantship to the American Institutes for Research in the Behavioral Sciences Clear Writing Program. President Bernstine, the medical school can use you. Now, you all know that I like to dig for some little nugget to tell you in introducing our speakers. This was a hard one. President Bernstine lives almost across the street from me, and the local patrol officers report no unseemly events at his home, just the usual massive PSU entertainments. He owns no marauding dogs, no howling cats, not even a goldfish. His staff loves working for him, and I can tell you they are very close-mouthed. He told me this is because they know he'll be back there at 1:30 today. I've heard that he is absolutely passionate about golf, that he loves the blues, especially B.B. King, and that he enjoys travel. The worst thing I can tell you is that when I asked him to travel down the road to my house when he's out walking and have a glass of wine, he responded, "I'll do that, but only if I'll have two." Please join me in my pleasure and honor in introducing you to President Daniel Bernstine.
Thank you, neighbor. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure, a double pleasure to be here today. Being introduced as a new member to the City Club, and being the speaker on the same day. It's a novel recruiting tool. Today, I want to talk to you about higher education in Oregon, specifically higher education in the region and at Portland State University, and Portland State's role and its future. But first, I want to say how pleased I am to be here in Portland and at Portland State. Now, at this point, even though you've written your speech, you have to know when not to read verbatim. The next line of my speech says, "Now that spring is arriving." I'm not sure that's appropriate for the weather today or for this weekend. But in any event, I am pleased to be here in Portland and at Portland State University, and I am learning that Oregon is a special place, a place where quality of life is important and where maintaining the quality of life is a primary concern to public officials and to private citizens. And when I talk about the quality of life, I mean much more than the quality of the air and the water. I mean our economy, the sensibilities with which planning and community development occurs, and the efforts to revitalize Portland's downtown through partnerships involving public and private sectors. Oregon and the metro region have every reason to be proud. I believe that a key in maintaining this record is a quality education system, from kindergarten through graduate education. The ways in which we educate and keep re-educating our citizens today will determine the nature of our public and private leadership tomorrow. Higher education in Oregon has been prominent in the news media lately. We've been hearing about the governor's task force and its suggestion that the Oregon university system is past due for an overhaul if it is to survive in a newly competitive environment. The task force recommended drastic changes, essentially decentralizing the system and encouraging individual institutions to be more entrepreneurial in responding to the student needs and to community needs. These changes reflect a national discussion regarding the new competitive marketplace for higher education and whether existing higher education institutions have it within themselves to respond in meaningful ways to the new pressures. The discussions make some in higher education uncomfortable, but we at Portland State welcome the recognition of the need for change in higher education. In fact, if you'd been around the campus when the task force issued its report, you might have heard a few people say, well, what took so long? Because this is something that Portland State has been talking about and has been doing at the same time. And the university has received national attention for innovation, attention from organizations such as the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, the Pew Charitable Trust, the National Association of College and University Business Officers, and most recently from Business Week. In a major feature article about the ability of universities to survive in a newly competitive higher education market, Business Week called Portland State, and I quote, years ahead of other institutions, end quote, when it comes to academic and administrative innovation and serving the changing higher education needs of communities and students. What is it that these organizations have seen and admired at Portland State? And why might other institutions look to us as a model? First, let's look at the new competitive environment that the governor's task force talked about. Governor Kitzhaber spoke to the Board of Higher Education in December and outlined three major changes he said were driving change in higher education. Number one, changes in state government and finance priorities. Since 1990, the percentage of the state general fund committed to higher education has dropped from 15% to 7%. In fact, if you look at the state tax support of higher education as a percentage of personal income, only one state in the union has reduced the percentage more than Oregon over the last 20 years, and that's Vermont. And that's not a very enviable position to be in by any means. Number two, changes in the marketplace. The governor was referring to the changing nature of the higher education student body and the needs of the Oregon business community for educated graduates. 30 years ago, most students moved in a fairly straight line from entering as freshmen to graduating with a degree in 4 or 5 years. That's no longer the case at many institutions, and it has never been the case at Portland State. And now, more and more campuses are trying to learn how to serve students who are working, who attend part-time, drop out, then drop back in, and then drop back out again. Number three, changes in how higher education is delivered. There's been a significant increase in new entities such as the University of Phoenix and the Internet, which are, in a real sense, competing for students. Many large companies operate their own educational programs and are asking for education on demand for their employees at their time and at their workplace. The lesson here for PSU is that as more and more educational opportunities present themselves, the place-bound student is becoming a thing of the past. To meet these challenges, the governor suggested changes in the governance and financing structure of Oregon's higher education system. The whole idea is to give institutions greater autonomy and flexibility to meet the changing needs and to reward achievement and entrepreneurship. As I said at the outset, I applaud this direction, and I believe that the other system presidents do so as well. Already, we have agreed on a set of principles and guidelines in terms of developing a new financial allocation model for the Oregon University system. Those principles are, first, the model must be student-centered. That is, tuition will follow the students. Institutions will retain the tuition dollars which they generate instead of the current system where all tuition is deposited in a central pool for redistribution. In addition to tuition, each institution will receive a portion of state support based on a per-student formula. Again, the funding follows the student. Second, there must be a method for incentive funding to meet state priorities. So some funds will have to be set aside to encourage innovative programming. Third, the new model will require accountability, which will be tied to performance indicators. The State Board is considering performance measures in areas of access, program quality, cost effectiveness, and the success of graduates in the job market. Fourth, the new model for allocating higher education funds must be less complex. Oregonians must be able to see the direct link between their tax contributions and the services rendered. Over the next few months, we will work out the details of this new funding model, which will result in a stronger, more responsive, and more flexible higher education system. So I urge you to keep your eye on the system as we work through these changes. This is uncharted territory for much of higher education, and it's a fundamental shift in funding and accountability. Now I want to tell you about some of the ways PSU has been and is responding to the challenges outlined by the governor. First, responding to the needs of the market. Terms like marketing and customer satisfaction still make many people in higher education uncomfortable. However, looked at in one sense, it simply means looking closely at an institution's general curriculum, both graduate and undergraduate, in light of the changing needs of knowledge and skills, and then working to see whether there are changes that should be made both in what we teach and how we teach it. For PSU, it means scanning the marketplace to determine immediate educational needs which we can reasonably fill, whether in the nature of certificate programs, short courses, professional development seminars, or a new degree program. It was just such an examination of our product that led to the development of our innovative undergraduate curriculum, the University Studies program, now in its 4th year and showing a lot of promise. The faculty looked at the old distribution model of undergraduate education, decided it wasn't meeting today's needs, and shifted to a series of interdisciplinary core courses with a focus on critical thinking, communications, and teamwork. These are the attributes that many business and community leaders say they want in graduates. In other words, a broad education in liberal arts and sciences. Portland State has also responded to specific needs within the educational marketplace. Look at our food industry management program, for example. Here's an area in which the industry came to us with a need: training middle and upper management how to operate diverse companies in a rapidly changing and globalizing economy. These companies are concerned with everything from raising and harvesting crops to processing, shipping, and retailing food products. Working with the industry, our School of Business has designed a series of programs to keep those managers a step ahead of the competition. This is a program that is supported by the industry. Literally dozens of companies participate, and guided by them as well. It is the kind of specialized educational opportunity an institution like Portland State is uniquely qualified to fill, and it's the kind of response that the governor has asked us to make. It is also a model for meeting the special program needs of business and high-tech firms and others. These programs are not bound by location or academic format, but can utilize locations such as the Capitol Center in Washington County or private company facilities. A large part of being successful in today's market is an institution's concern for the people it serves. At Portland State, that means becoming more student-centered. I have appointed a special commission on campus climate. The commission is considering what our students should expect in the way of administrative services, classroom experiences, support for academic learning, social climate, and assistance in the transition from school to the workplace. We want students to choose Portland State, and once they enroll, we want them to stay and to be successful. That goes for every type of student, from those fresh out of high school or community college to the returning student. And that means paying attention to everything from first contact through to the completion of a degree. Another area the governor talked about was the creation of a seamless educational system, one with easy program transferability and closer cooperation with community colleges. This fall, PSU and Clackamas Community College began a simplified process to move students through a 4-year degree. It's called co-admission, and it brings the two schools together in the students' interest. This program will be soon expanded to Portland and Mount Hood community colleges. We also work with Westview High School in Beaverton and Grant High School in Portland to offer freshman inquiry classes, giving high school students an opportunity to participate in college-level courses. These are just a few examples of ways Portland State is already meeting challenges laid out by Governor Kitzhaber and his task force. Making certain that we succeed in these areas is my #1 challenge. A second significant challenge is to build our community and political support. Part of this effort will be to grow meaningful and productive partnerships with businesses and other organizations throughout the region. It's clear that private financial support has become critical to the success of public higher education. And how is Portland State doing? As you know, Portland State is relatively new in this arena, but we've made some significant and remarkable strides. In the past few years, our faculty has tripled the amount of outside grant and contract activity at PSU, and private giving to Portland State tripled last year to over $8 million. In the past, we've received 2 $1 million gifts, the first in our history, and both came from alumni. Now that tells you something about how our graduates are doing. The first from Karen Brown Wilson and Michael DeShane, both PhDs from the College of Urban and Public Affairs. And their gift is in support of the Urban Center building project, which will house the College of Urban and Public Affairs, the Mark O. Hatfield School of Government, and a state-of-the-art distance learning facility. The other gift from Peter Stott is a challenge grant for athletics. Besides being very significant in terms of Portland State's economic future, these two gifts highlight two very different but very important initiatives for the university. The first being the University District Plan. Last month, in her State of the City address before this club, Mayor Vera Katz talked about the revitalization of the downtown through neighborhood developments such as the River District and the Pearl District. But I believe that the most exciting new neighborhood development is occurring in the University District, the land south of Market, west of 4th Avenue, and bound by the 405 freeway. Our Vice President, George Bernstine, refers to those blocks along 4th and 5th Avenues as the land that time forgot, underdeveloped and underutilized. What we envision in the University District is a neighborhood of mixed uses, academic and research space, commercial and retail space, and housing for individuals and families who want to live downtown. 1,500 new housing units. The plan includes the downtown streetcar, light rail, and extension of the bus mall. There will be an open pedestrian plaza and walkway from the South Park blocks to the Willamette River and Waterfront Park. And we are within weeks of taking the first giant step in making the district a reality. On April 9th and 10th, the Legislative Emergency Board will consider the final public funding for the Urban Center and Plaza project. The second initiative, which received a tremendous boost from Peter Stott's Challenge Grant, is in the area of intercollegiate athletics. The decision of PSU to move to Division I of the NCAA and to join the Big Sky Conference was a good one. I believe that a first-rate athletic program is an integral co-curricular activity for a first-rate university. It helps put us on the map. And if you don't think college athletics are important, consider the case of Rutgers University, a major public institution in New Jersey. Their football program has stumbled for years. But when the program went 0 this season, Governor Whitman had enough. She has proposed her own candidate for Rutgers athletic director, and she has the support of many legislators. We aren't at that point because our coaches have done an outstanding job this year. However, we are launching the campaign for PSU athletics with co-chairs Jack and Deanne Garrison and Bill and Barbara Susille. The goal is to match Peter Stott's $1 million gift. We believe it is possible, and that given the opportunity, individuals and businesses in this community will support a quality, competitive, intercollegiate athletic program through gifts and purchases of tickets. I've mentioned just a few areas in which I want Portland State to move forward in dramatic ways. It is my hope that as we identify resources, we can enhance our offerings in business and engineering to better serve the needs of those important constituencies. I also want us to look at our programs with a focus on developing our national reputation. We must develop the kind of quality academic programs and campus climate that will make PSU an institution of choice, not just for metropolitan area residents, but for students throughout Oregon, the nation, and for international students as well. I hope you can see why I say I welcome the prospect of change in Oregon's higher education system. I believe that encouraging flexibility and entrepreneurship will create unlimited opportunities for PSU and for other institutions as we find new and better ways to serve Oregon. As the new operating principles for higher education become clearer, we will see more innovation throughout the system, and each institution will have to find those areas where it can compete most successfully. So a priority at PSU is to re-examine what we do and identify our strengths and identify our weaknesses. There's been a lot of change at PSU over the past few years, and we need to pause for a moment and assess what is working, and equally important, what is not. Another priority is to continue building community and political connections and increasing external financial support. The new competitive marketplace means we must take a more expansive view of marketing. Portland State has a great story to tell, and we're going to tell it with increased vigor and in new ways. A third priority is to focus on improving the campus experience for students, faculty, and staff. Even if we quake at the term customer satisfaction, we have to strive for it. We need to re-examine our own administrative and academic organization to make certain we are in a position to take advantage of the opportunities presented by the changes in the Oregon University system. We have to ask, are we nimble enough to be a leading competitor in this new environment? I say we will be. Portland State is ready for the new era in higher education. We're eager for it. In fact, we're years ahead of other institutions. At the same time, as we move to this new era, the challenges that we face at PSU are not ours alone. As I have moved through this community, a common theme that I have heard is that this first-class city deserves a first-class university. We cannot maintain our status as a first-class university without the support of the community, that we serve and are an integral part of. We need community support and engagement in all of our programs, from academics to athletics. The quality and success of PSU is inextricably intertwined with the quality and the success of this fine city and the metropolitan region that we enjoy and are so proud of. I welcome your participation as we seek to meet the challenges that lie ahead, and with your support, we can't help but succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bernstine, for your stimulating thoughts and sharing with us your vision for Portland State. My question today concerns Portland State's situation and position vis-a-vis the other members of the state system of higher education. For years, many of us have looked at Portland State and have seen how it's has continually been the poor sister, particularly a poor sister in the system, particularly with regard to the big sisters down the Willamette Valley. So my question has to do with that situation, Dr. Bernstine. You mentioned that the money will follow the students, and that's probably an encouraging sign that perhaps those inequities would be corrected. But will it be enough? And there will be other grants and other awards of financial assistance. What strategy do you have to rectify that problem that we've witnessed for years as far as these inequities that have plagued Portland State?
Tough question. No, actually, I think one of the major benefits of the new funding model is to try to level the playing field for all of the institutions in the system. I'm a very good lawyer, but I don't think that an argument for reparations is likely to have any real effect. And we have to live with the fact that, relatively speaking, we are a young institution, but at the same time, I think with increased support from the business community, from our alumni, that in order to maintain the quality and our strength as an institution, we will need the help of those constituencies. And one of the great things about being in this metropolitan community is that you can still be a duck or a beaver and be a Viking at the same time. And so I think the challenge for PSU is to ensure that under this new funding model, the playing field is in fact level, and then look to the support from our alumni and the business community to help us maintain the margin of excellence.
Is Lee Stevenson?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here we go. Excuse me, Linda.
Lee Stevenson, City Club member. Welcome to Portland, Dr. Bernstine.
Thank you.
In 1978, I chaired a study of PSU, and I would say that we were very impressed with what we found, and the City Club, I think, has been very supportive and would share my enthusiasm for your mission and your statement here and going out and doing a great job. Having said that, however, we found that there are policies in the state system that make that playing field not level. We've talked a little bit about funding, but one that was inherent then, and I think probably is still there, is the non-duplication of services. And I'd like to have you comment on how you think you can best strategize overcoming what has been a traditional policy at the state level and the state board of overcoming this duplication syndrome.
Well, as a newcomer, I'm not sure that the policy and practice have necessarily been consistent. I know that at Portland State, historically, we've taken the position that, in essence, Portland is our oyster, and that our sister institutions ought to stay away. I think that position is unrealistic in today's environment. As I mentioned earlier, with institutions like the University of Phoenix and the Internet and other institutions as well, establishing programs in Portland and bringing the education to the metropolitan area. There really is no such thing as a place-bound student any longer. And so one of the things that the board is certainly looking at is the whole question of how to deal with duplication and its current policies and practices on duplication of programs. In my own view, I think it's unrealistic to think anything other than the fact that duplication is, or the prohibition against duplication is out. As the governor spoke to the presidents in particular about his recommendations or his acceptance of the recommendations of the task force, I suspect that 6 of my colleagues looked at all roads leading to Portland. As far as I was concerned, I saw the road leading out of Portland, because I think it's an opportunity for PSU to become much more expansive, that we are the urban university in the system, but we can't let that be a limitation on what we are as an institution. We have to, again, become much more a school of choice, not only in the metropolitan region, but also throughout the state and throughout the nation and internationally as well. And so my own view is that I hope that the board decides to make a clear statement that schools under the guise of entrepreneurship should be able to compete and establish programs wherever they think they can be successful. We have a few in mind ourselves.
I'm Linda Peters, member of the club, chair of the Washington County Board of Commissioners, and candidate for Congress. In my public official role, I've, along with a lot of other folks, come to really value the resource that Portland State has been to us when we're dealing with issues like urban growth and juvenile crime and improving public education. There are resources there that we turn to. As we face the challenge of turning PSU together with the Graduate Institute and all of the other sources that we have into really top-flight, world-class research institutions, are we stretching ourselves so far that we can't continue to have these kinds of productive partnerships with community-based organizations and local jurisdictions, or can we pull together and do all of it?
Well, I hope that we can pull together and do it all. I think historically PSU in particular has done an outstanding job of leveraging its resources, especially in partnership with social service and other public and government agencies. I think where we need to focus now is on partnerships with the business and high-tech communities, so that we can leverage our resources and encourage their investment in PSU as an institution. Again, looking at the urban mission, I hope that we don't read the term urban to mean city, that we mean urban to be much more comprehensive and encompassing the entire metropolitan region. But in this era of limited resources, and the governor, of course, has gone on record as supporting increased support for higher education in the next biennium, I hope that there will be additional resources that will allow the institutions to do more.
President Bernstine, I'm Edward Glick, member of the City Club. If a first-class city needs a first-class university, a first-class university needs a first-class school of engineering. I have no training in engineering, so I think I'm fairly objective. What, sir, can you tell us about your plans and hopes for making the engineering faculty and associated faculties more than just adequate?
Well, again, the lawyer in me won't allow me to concede that our engineering school is just adequate. I think we have a very high-quality engineering program. Dean Bob Dryden has now recently been appointed the Vice Chancellor for Engineering, and will actually coordinate engineering for the system. Again, I think this is an area where the university and the high-tech community have to come together and think about ways in which we can be of support to them, but also ways that they can be supportive of us. I already have a number of dates set up to make personal calls on a number of the high-tech companies to get a better understanding of their needs and how we, as an institution, can be responsive to those needs.
Betsy Warrener, City Club member. I work at the Volunteer Center, and I would love to hear you talk about what is happening and what your hopes are for students and faculty involvement in community service and service learning.
Well, one of the highlights of the University Studies program is the senior capstone experience, which really allows students to get some exposure and participate on a volunteer basis. Again, historically, I think Portland State has been a major contributor to the city and to the metropolitan community, and in some ways we have provided services and leveraged our resources to provide services that the state and local agencies have the responsibility for. And I hope that Portland State will continue in that tradition.
B.J. Seymour, City Club member, and also member of the Downtown Community Association. You talked about the University District in your presentation, and the Downtown Community Association is the neighborhood organization for people who live downtown, and its boundaries include the University District's boundaries. What plans have you to work with the Downtown Community Association and to involve them in your work?
Well, as we begin to develop the district, we of course will be working with all of the relevant constituencies. The first component of the district, of course, is a university building, a campus building, the university, the urban center, which will really provide a new front door to the campus. But as we begin and I think we're very sensitive to the other constituencies that are involved. But as we begin to develop the remainder of the district, of course, we will be in touch and seek your input and support.
I'm glad to hear that, and I'd like to invite you to the Downtown Community Association's annual meeting, which is this coming Tuesday.
It's a little short notice. I'll check my calendar, though. Thanks.
I'm Bud Forrester, a City Club member. I speak as a former member of the Board of Higher Education and the father of a son who's a graduate of Portland State. The university has suffered from the beginning and still and continues to from lack of support from the Portland business community. There's, I guess, a ready analysis. So many of those business leaders are graduates of other institutions where they feel a first allegiance. Your predecessors have unsuccessfully tried to grope with this problem. What do you think you can do?
Yeah, the lawyer and me again. Yeah. No, I hope that we can convince the business community that PSU is a wise investment. That we are a part of this community, and the success of this community really depends on our success as well. From the beginning, I've spent a lot of time meeting with individuals in the business community, talking about Portland State, seeking their input in terms of, again, what we can provide for them and how they can also be helpful to us. I think the major way of having some success in any kind of fundraising effort is the personal touch. And when I first started as president of PSU, I cautioned all of the deans that the nature of their jobs will likely change dramatically, and certainly will change dramatically, that they have to be prepared to spend a significant, if not a majority of their time out on the road in trying to gain external support for the university. And I think that's nothing unique at Portland State. It's become true at most public higher education institutions. It's always been true of most of the private higher education institutions. So I think you'll see an increased amount of activity, not just on the part of me as president of PSU, but also on the part of the fine deans that we have in the schools and colleges and the university.
President Bernstine, welcome to Oregon and to Portland in particular. My name is Saul Shapiro. I am a new member of the City Club. I am a PSU alumnus, and I am a member of the National Non-Traditional Student Association. As you know, non-traditional students have made up 40% or so of the population at Portland State University for a number of years. I was surprised to receive a phone call during a fundraising the other day from Portland State University to discover that the only organization representing non-traditional students at Portland State has not been there now for 2 years, since in fact we received no allocation of resources. Given the importance of that particular population and in the focus of PSU's marketing approaches, what will you do particularly to appeal to the student who is perhaps 29 to 30 years old, who needs to have more classes available in the evening that have been available at PSU? What specifically are you doing to address that particular student?
Well, heretofore non-traditional students have been our business, and I think certainly for the foreseeable future that will remain the case. One of the major charges to the Campus Climate Commission is to look at how we deliver services to students and how we can become much more student-centered as a campus, keeping in mind the constituencies that we have, and the average age of our student body, I think, is about 28, and most of our students are not professional students. They have other things that they do with their lives other than go to school. And so both in terms of courses and academics as well as administrative services, we have to be responsive to the students that we serve. And so I'm hoping that the commission will come up with some very specific recommendations that will allow us to be much more responsive to our student body.
Louise Beaudreau, member. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Portland State for the open door policy to we senior citizens. I'm a student at Portland State, and I've been welcomed as many of my neighbors, and we really appreciate it. My question is, what are the plans to reinstitute the dance program at Portland State?
What dance program? Actually, Dean Robert Sylvester, I think I saw him slip you a couple of bucks. He's here today. We actually have a dance offering. I don't know that it rises to the level of a program, but we've tried to be sensitive to the interest on the part of the community for the dance program. And while we haven't, formally reintroduced the dance program, I think we do have a number of activities that I hope will be responsive, at least for the short term. Robert, why'd you do that to me?
I'm Gus Mattersdorf, also a member of the City Club. I listened to your speech and took from it the impression that Portland State is going to be increasingly concerned with serving the community, and in particular the business community. It seems to me that that's probably going to discourage the poets and the philosophers and the astronomers and the people in far out fields who do things that don't particularly impact on the community and even less on the business community. I'd like to hear you reassure me that that part of it isn't going to be forgotten, and that Portland State will continue to be an educational institution searching for knowledge in the broadest sense.
Well, I think first and foremost, we are and will continue to be a university, and that says a lot. At the same time, I don't think that being more responsive to the business and high-tech community is necessarily inconsistent with offering classes in, as you characterize them, kind of off-the-road areas. In fact, the business and high-tech communities have told us that what they really want are people with a broad and liberal educational background, that they don't want technocrats. And so we will remain a university. We will produce individuals that have strong interdisciplinary training and experience, and as far as I'm concerned, that will be the greatest formula for their success in their future careers. So I hope that you are rest assured that if you ever want to take a poetry class, we're probably still going to have one.
President Bernstine, my name is Jane Lesser. I'm a City Club member. I was very pleased to read in the Oregonian about the student vote to expand child care services using student fee dollars, and I was wondering what you could tell us about your commitment to that program and just what the expansion will include.
Well, Chris Groner, the president of the Student Association, I think probably slipped you a few bucks, too. But actually, we're still working out the details, but it's really a combination of student fees as well as university support. So put some money up, therefore I think I'm pretty committed.
John Leeper, City Club member. I too welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
You spoke in your presentation about an increased emphasis on the athletic program. I would hope, sir, that as that athletic emphasis is brought more to the fore, there would also be an equal emphasis on academic achievement on the part of the athletes.
I agree. I think if you look at our record, we have a pretty good graduation record for our student athletes. And I see athletics as a co-curricular activity. I mean, it's an activity not only for the students, but not only for the students who aren't athletes, but the students who do participate in athletics are really students first. And I think our athletic director and our coaches are all very sensitive to that. We've recently established academic support programs for our student athletes. And just as we want our other students to come to Portland State and stay and be successful, we also want our athletes to come to Portland State and stay and be successful as well, not only on the athletic field, but also in the classroom.
I'm Ken Libby. I'm a guest, and I'm also a candidate for the State Senate. And having been a professor at a large urban university some years ago, I have an idea where university reforms generally break on the rocks. And that is that the administration is going in one direction, while the departments are making their decisions on faculty advancement and going in a different direction. The departments all want to be the University of Michigan or Berkeley or Harvard. And I'm wondering how you're going to deal with that.
Well, Portland State's unique. We're not like that. No, I think one of the major challenges, not only for me as president, but also for the faculty as a whole, is to really seriously evaluate where we are, where we're strong, what we do well, what we don't necessarily do so well. Look at the competitive environment, because under this new budget allocation model, you will be rewarded for your success, but you will also have to pay the cost for for failure. And we have to look at our academic programs in the context of that new environment. And that will be a serious challenge for many of us in higher education. But if PSU is to really succeed and to effectively compete in this new environment, it's just something that we have to do.
This is a written question from a member in the audience, and we're happy to receive written questions from members, either at the microphone or in the audience. You spoke of liberal arts education and responding to the marketplace. When a university becomes a farm team, that'll probably get you going, yeah. When a university becomes a farm team for the prevailing powers in the marketplace, does it jeopardize liberal arts education?
Well, as I said before, I think becoming responsive to the marketplace doesn't necessarily involve producing technocrats. I think what we strive to do is produce students that have a broad liberal education background, but at the same time they are ready to assume some responsibilities in the workplace, because the training will also include a level of specialization so that students can effectively make a transition into the workplace. So I don't see those two things as being inconsistent. As a matter of fact, the one thing that really separates a PSU from classes on the internet or going off the 205 and going into an office building and taking courses and then driving back to work is the learning environment. That is what you get from being on those park blocks and interacting with other students and with other faculty members. And one of the reasons that the Campus Climate Commission is so important is that if we can't improve the quality of what happens on those park blocks, then a student might as well sit before a computer or drive to an office building and then take a class and go to work. And so what I'm hoping for is that PSU will be a strong institution across the board. Thank you again. Now that I'm an official member, I hope you'll call me Dan in the future.
Well, thank you, Dan. And it's nothing short of astonishing what you have learned about Portland State since August of '97, and indeed what you've learned of this community. I can tell you that I continue to be astonished at the level of knowledge and the questioning ability of members in this audience, and today was certainly no exception. What a wonderful group of questions, and I thank you for it. Your predecessor led Portland State with operatic bravado, and we can tell already that you bring to this job quite a new beat. We are delighted to have you here and hope to join in the swinging. Thanks. We are adjourned.